Alright, so in the previous two videos, we've dealt with how to form the subjunctive mood. So this is a new mood. The other three that we know are the indicative, the imperative, and the infinitive. So this is the fourth mood. And I mentioned briefly that it's used with a special construction with cum. Alright? Now this is only the first of many subjunctive clauses you're going to learn. When you go to Latin 3, we'll add a whole bunch of new ones in there. But for right now, cum clauses are the ones we're going to learn. Now, if you had to take a stab at what are the identifying marks of a cum clause in Latin, what would be the two identifying marks? If you said the word cum, yes, and some sort of subjunctive, exactly. They'll have some kind of subjunctive plus the word cum there. Alright? Now, the subjunctive is used a lot of times to express situations that haven't happened, that could happen, or the types of situations, the types of conditions under which a situation would happen. So this is why the subjunctive is different from the indicative. The indicative is facts. Johnny went to the store. Indicative mood. Fact. Johnny would go to the store when he ran out of milk. The phrase, when he ran out of milk, tells us the condition when Johnny would go to the store. And that phrase, when he ran out of milk, would in Latin be written with a cum clause. Alright? So in this chapter, in stage 24, you have another additional meaning of the word cum. Cum, we knew before, when it's with an ablative, means with. Now, when it's with a subjunctive, it means when. So, these cum clauses are known as temporal ones. From the Latin word tempus, meaning time. These cum clauses tell us when something's happening. Eventually you'll get cum clauses that tell us why something's happening. They're called cum causal clauses. So it's telling us why something happened. Because of this, such and such happened. But right now we're dealing with temporal ideas. Alright? So the cum clause is specifically known as a cum temporal clause. Alright? And so you have a cum, you have a subjunctive in the sentence, it gets translated into English and it sounds pretty regular. You just have to make sure you translate the cum correctly. So on page 70 in your book, there's a couple of examples. So, cum modestus ad pontem ad venesset, equus constitit. When Modestus had arrived at the bridge, the horse stopped. Alright? So, the horse stops in the situation of when Modestus is arriving at the bridge. Alright? Now, I know in English this sounds very much like a fact situation, but the Romans and Latin speakers wanted to show that whenever Modestus came to a bridge, in any situation, not just this one of the story, whenever that happened, the horse would always stop. Alright? So that's what the subjunctive is kind of implying there, is that in all these situations, this is the horse's reaction. Alright? The next one, cum servi omnia paravissent, mercator amicos in triclinium duxit. So when the slaves had prepared everything, so cum servi omnia paravissent, when the slaves had prepared everything, the merchant led his friends into the dining room. Alright? So those phrases, those first initial phrases, cum modestus ad pontem adavissent, cum servi omnia paravissent, those are our cum temporal clauses. They tell us when something's happening. So when plus the subjunctive verb. Alright? Subjects act the same, direct objects act the same, prepositional phrases act the same. This is just another type of subordinate clause. So, since this is a subordinate clause, what is one thing that it can never do? Well, I take back never. It almost never does. the Romans can change things. It's their language. They can do what they want. But what's one thing that it will almost never do? Yes, it will almost never be alone. It'll always have a main clause in the indicative, and then it'll either be preceding or follow in that main clause. The Romans can switch that up. But that will be in the subjunctive, all right? So these will never appear by themselves. They will always be with a main clause. All right? So there's some more examples down here. Why don't you pause the video, take a look at the ones in section C, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Make sure you can identify what clause is the cum clause, and then try and give it a translation. I'll let you pause the video now. Alright, so you've hopefully paused the video. If not, pause it and do the work. But let's go through these sentences. So number 1, cum rex egisit savius milites ad se vocavit. So when the king had left, Savius called soldiers to himself. So cum rex exisit, when the king had left, Savius called the soldiers to himself. Remember, Savius is that jerk of a guy, and he's angry at Corgadubnus. The next one, cum gladiatores leonem interficissent, spectores plauserent. So when the gladiators had killed the lions, the spectators applauded, the spectators cheered, all right? So this one's a really good situation because we always understand gladiator fights happen over and over again. So it's whenever these gladiators kill lions, the crowd goes wild, all right? So that shows you the subjunctiveness of this sentence. So it's whenever this happened, so whenever A, B follows, all right? It's kind of another way of putting it in mathematical terms to think of, all right? Cum dominus haec mandata dedesset, fabri ad aulum rederunt. So when the master had given these orders, these commands, the workers, the craftsmen, returned to the palace. All right, and then the last one gives you a slightly different word pattern, same idea. Soores cum colina intravisset, populas ordera lavare copierunt. So the sisters, when they had entered the kitchen, began to wash the dirty cups. All right. On page 73 are another set of examples. This is using cum plus the imperfect subjunctive. All right. So we have senex cum pecuniam in venicit ad villam redidit. So when the old man had found the money, he returned to the villa. And then cum rem fecissent abierunt. So when they had finished the job, they went away. Now hopefully you're thinking to yourself, wait, Mr. Carroll, didn't you just give us imperfect examples? I did give you imperfect examples. The subjunctive doesn't follow tenses like we've learned them so far. The subjunctive puts tenses in relation to the main verb. All right? So if the main verb is perfect in idea, then the subjunctive must have happened before, and so we have to translate it pluperfect. Even if it's in the imperfect subjunctive form, it's in the imperfect subjunctive form with, ARM or ARS, etc., etc. Even if it has that form, we still translate it like it's pluperfect. This is going to be a confusing part and one that's going to trip up a lot of you from time to time. It did when I was a student. It tripped me up a lot. Make sure you pay attention to how the sentence sounds when you translate them, all right? We're going to do a lot of practice in class so you guys will have a chance to take a look over this stuff. All right, if you have any questions, feel free, like I said, write them in the comments, email me, bring them into class. Other than that, that is it for this video. Thank you, guys.